From prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live. We will be diving into the evolution of how T Rex has been portrayed over the years, and some I will do quickly, others I will give a more in depth breakdown of. So, let's get started. This T Rex, which looks like it might have been reconstructed back in the 1960s, I'm guessing, has quite a few issues. Now, for the time, this wasn't overall bad. I mean, there obviously is a major transformation here from its older depictions, but the head, um, and when looking at the bottom jaw, is not equally aligned with the upper jaw. Another problem is it doesn't look like there are any lips for this animal. However, it's not a closed mouth. The arms should also be a lot more muscular. There's barely any muscle on these arms.
I figured this thing was from like the 1940's or something.
It could be, but I think it might be a bit later in time. Now, T Rex could reach over 40 feet in length, around 12 meters, and weigh on average around 9.5 tons. So it is the largest predatory land animal to exist. But when looking at this individual, I'd say the only area when looking at the overall dimensions of the weight distribution that might be somewhat accurate is actually the tail. Despite this animal walking with its tail dragging on the ground, which has been disputed for quite some time. And also, the arms should be facing each other. So, this individual has quite a few problems. Anyway, let's head forward. Okay, here's an earlier depiction of T Rex, at least I think. This animal has an extremely small face compared to its body size in this picture. However, T Rex, the skull alone was around 4.5 feet in length. And this animal, yeah, it's obviously much smaller, but
He looks like a giant lizard.
yeah, he does. And I'd say the last depiction is a bit better. But yeah, the legs are too slender. There's barely, it doesn't even show a calf. The toes are too small compared to its body size, or at least too short, too stubby of a foot. Now, um, these are the duck-billed dinosaurs, most likely Edmontosaurus that's hunting in this picture. But also, the teeth seem to be a bit too curved, or at least pointing backwards, which is something that you would find in other species of non-tyrannosaur, but such as like the allosaurs or the megalosaurs, different parts of the carnosaur lineage, but not so much a larger tyrannosaurus. Let's move forward. This animal looks much better, but he still has a lot of problems. When looking at the preserved skin of T Rex that we have found, there is no signs, or there aren't any signs of feathers protruding from them. So, most likely, at least when it was an adult, it wouldn't have had any feathers.
I still love the tail.
It is a good looking depiction, especially like the end part of the tail, but that wouldn't have occurred. Another problem with this picture, which is quite interesting, I rarely see this with T Rex depictions, even if it's supposed to be its own thing. It has very long, curved claws compared to its body size, as well as that the toes seem to be a bit too flexible.
That was what I
Um,
was thinking when I was looking at it.
Now, when looking at the size of the leg and the shape of it, it's really not that bad. I think it looks quite decent. Maybe a slightly larger thigh, but besides that, it's still a bit too skinny for a T Rex. You can still see its rib cage protruding. You wouldn't have seen this in a healthy T Rex. The arms, what I like about them is that they are adding quite large deltoid or shoulder muscles to it. So that looks decent. And they're also facing each other.
Are those
Um,
tickle muscles?
it's It is a big question. Yeah, it they very possibly could have tickled each other if they were in the right position, but
Whose theory was that?
I it could have it might have been Dr. Robert T. Bakker's or somebody beforehand, maybe even possibly John Ostrom, which was Dr. Bakker's mentor. So John Ostrom after the 1800s, so the theory that dinosaurs were feathered, warm blooded, intelligent, non reptilian like animals. Wait. I went too did I go too far with that? Anyway, John Ostrom was the first person to bring back the theory that these animals were just not dumb, clumsy reptiles, and then Dr. Bacher further pushed it. And,
Does this thing have a worm in its mouth?
uh, what makes you say that? It looks like he's lacking a tongue. I think it's just supposed to be part of the gum line on the side.
Oh, okay.
The teeth on this individual seem to be a bit too exposed, or at least most of the tooth would have been covered by gum. Maybe around 4 to 5 inches of T Rex tooth would be protruding.
What's your opinion of his eyes?
His eyes seem to be okay. They seem to have a very forward-facing binocular vision sort of a look, which is very peculiar in specifically T Rex. Other earlier Tyrannosaur species have a bit more of a peripheral sort of vision, something that you also see in earlier species of Coelurosaurs, which is the large group of meat eating theropod dinosaurs in which Tyrannosaurus rex belongs to. But even the Carnosaur lineage, which is completely different. Some tend to think when they hear the word Carnosaur, it belongs to every species of predatory dinosaur, whereas there were the Carnosaurs and then the Coelurosaurs. So let's move forward. Okay, this is interesting. So this is supposed to be a depiction of a young T-Rex. This used to be an earlier sort of a look, at least according to some people.
It
I
has a
think this was
beak.
Yeah, I think this was always a bit odd in this instance, even for a hatchling. The skull is far too short compared to its body size. Now, we haven't found any baby T Rex at the moment, but it is very possible that the young were covered in feathers.
Wait, we haven't
Um,
found any baby T Rexes yet?
we found juvenile T Rex, still quite rare, but not any hatchlings. Um, but this is quite interesting, at least just looking at the overall um, depiction of this animal. Quite ugly, but he should have a much longer snout. It's a bit of a debate, though, as to how long the arms would have been compared to its body size. Now, definitely, they're giving this animal a very lightly built structure, which is fairly accurate. Okay, so this is definitely much more recent. I would say that the arm should be a bit curved and not completely straight in this angle. He does seem to have an extremely wide lower leg.
I was
Like
gonna
that
say he
is,
looks like he has teddy bear legs.
yeah, that's a bit too far. And this is interesting. They're giving it quite a wide chest. It's not overall bad. However, like with the other picture, there is no evidence for adult T Rexes to have been covered in feathers. Even when looking at other species of earlier Tyrannosaur, the larger ones, even as little as 13 feet in length, because we're looking at a 40-foot long individual,
Well,
would
she's
not have had
yelling
feathers.
she's yelling at him to come over for dinner.
Um, yeah, or that's hopefully that's not what's going on. Um, anyway, let's keep going. Also, this type of ecosystem, well, actually, it might not be too far off. There's in the distance, there's a Araucaria or monkey puzzle trees, which they've existed for hundreds of millions of years. Different species of conifers, ferns, flowers. Aside from that pink tree, that could have existed. Anyway, okay, this looks like something from possibly a video game. However, there wouldn't have been any feathers on an adult T Rex. Now, looking at the skull of this animal, you can see where the tongue is slightly lifted when it's bellowing or roaring. This wouldn't have occurred. A T Rex's tongue, as well as any theropod dinosaur's tongue, would have stayed completely flat when communicating with other members of its own species or trying to intimidate other animals. See, the teeth seem to be still a bit too protruding. The lips should be much longer. I can't tell when it comes to the eyesight of this animal. The arms are actually quite muscular. The forearms are given quite a bit of muscle. At least I don't think that's supposed to be fat.
What's the estimated strength for those arms?
Um, each arm it looks like could lift up to at least 400 pounds. So it was pretty decent for arms, in some cases, shorter in length than certain humans. Um, okay, this individual.
I stuck him in for fun.
Yeah, I think he was from some National Geographic documentary way back, but um, he's a bit off. He has too wide of a skull structure, and his arms. It's still a bit of a debate as to how long they might have been.
I
A
like
bit of
him
an
better than the other one.
Yeah, a bit of an odd structured tail. He is. Uh, I I think he's pretty ugly too. Let's keep going. Okay, this is in some museum. So this representation of T Rex, I think this came out what 8 or 9 years back. There wouldn't have been any feathers, but it is interesting. They've just added a small amount around the neck, upper part of the back. The teeth are also too exposed, and the arms are those the digits? What on earth? Wait, okay, that's hideous. Looks like a stick. Should be much more muscular, and much shorter fingers. Now, it is interesting. I think they gave it a third one. There is a single individual T Rex named Y Rex that was preserved with a small third finger, but every other T Rex just has two. So they have a thumb and an index finger, whereas he has a slight middle finger. Um, when it comes to the rest of him, I think the musculature of the neck could be a bit more. Now, just an overall, I mean, this is a full-on model. I mean, really, I mean, it's good, but just some other problems. The eyes, they look like they're giving this individual a bit too much of a peripheral sort of look. So this animal with, if he had peripheral vision, would be looking off to the side and would have a bit of a better view behind him as well, not
I
so
was just
much.
thinking they were small.
Um, yeah, they could be. Definitely the nostrils are off. It should be a much longer, sort of narrow look, and not like a pig nose. So, that's a bit off. It's good to see that the tongue's down. Um, let's keep going. Okay, so this is interesting. So this looks like it was done back in 2017. This isn't bad. When it comes to how much of the teeth are exposed, that's hard to say. Maybe slightly too much, but besides that, it's really not bad. Um, the overall skin texture actually looks pretty good. This is what T Rex skin would have looked like. And when it comes to the ridge on top, that looks pretty good as well. The
How do we
nostril,
know that's what T-Rex skin would have looked like?
looking at just simply, well, the preserved skin that we have, which is quite roundish, just in the overall structure. And the ear looks like it's pretty well placed. Nostril is really not bad. There's a lot of
What do you
detail
mean
too.
roundish?
Roundish. Are you talking about the scales?
You said the skin is roundish.
When looking at the type of osteoderms or scales that it had, they weren't rectangular anyway. Well, okay, the skull's a bit of a debate in terms of that area of skin, but there's mostly just small little round bits, and also not in an armor sort of way. It would have been quite smooth. Certain species of dinosaurs that T Rex fed on would have had somewhat armor um, sort of scales, and I'm not talking about the armored ankylosaurs. I'm even referencing certain species of like the duckbill dinosaurs. Okay, moving forward. This is I w this doesn't look anything like a T-Rex. This statue looks like someone took an Abelisaurus and then had it breed with uh, a Daspletosaurus. So this is an ugly mutt. Let's see. He has very little muscle on his arms. Let's see. Well, that's interesting. The teeth, when looking at how much are displayed, or just how much is exposed, it's really not bad. But Yeah, too skinny of a neck. This is pretty pathetic. Even for an abelisaur, they would have had a much thicker neck. Abelisaurs were basically the top predators of the southern hemisphere during the Cretaceous period, and well, also competing with some other theropods. Let's keep going. This animal, I'm glad is extinct. Um, okay, so it looks like we could have a Giganotosaurus attacking a T Rex. Looking at the T Rex's structure, let's see, looking at the mouth.
I feel like I'm looking at a dog sitting down and something biting it.
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that. That is interesting. Um, yeah, I don't think, unless it was sitting down, which T Rex did have the ability to sit on its pelvis bone, like most dinosaurs. No, probably not for an extended period, but it could. Interesting. They gave it quite muscular arms, like it's been lifting dromaeosaurs. So, all right, let's see. So this Giganotosaurus, yeah, he's got problems. Um, hmm. It's not a bad T Rex, or at least from looking at 1990s versions. Let's keep moving. Okay, so it shouldn't have all of these feathers. It's still a very good looking model. The feet aren't bad as well as the legs. I think they're decently proportioned when it comes to the musculature, but uh, he seems to have cankles. Let's see. Looking at the arms, they're not terrible, though. In some instances, it seems like the forearm might be lacking on a bit of muscle. The fingers aren't too bad. They're facing each other. Now the mouth, a bit too much of the teeth are exposed. Um,
His tongue's down though.
yeah, that is good to see. The ridges of the top of his skull, I think, should be a bit more exposed or just larger in general. This Triceratops, for its size, I would just say real quick, the horn should be much shorter, like slightly more than nubs. But this is like a full grown individual. Okay, let's keep going. Just when it comes to the horn shape. This is better. I will say though, the tongue should not be sticking out like that. That is horrible. Let's see. The arms, at least by what we can tell, they don't seem too bad. The legs, if you take away those feathers, does he have a calf? Okay, that's a problem. He has huge ankles. I mean, look at that. The toes, I don't think are. I think they're of decent length compared to their body
I
size.
can't stop looking at his arms.
Yeah, they are. I'm okay. That didn't hit me too. If you take off, if you shave off the feathers, is there much muscle? And that is odd. This part of the T Rex's feathers, and the rest of it is
Did
naked.
someone wax him?
Yeah, that's what it seems. Let's see. Nostrils not bad. I think the overall ridge. Oh, and they even have it where most of the teeth are covered up. Okay, well, yeah, that looks good. So this animal would have had lips. In fact, the lip theory, many tend to make it out like it's very recent, with the lip theory finally being established. Yes, T Rex, Brachiosaurus, Coelophysis, Velociraptor, they all had lips. It's official. Yeah, about that. First of all, if you look at the earlier depictions of T Rex, hold on, I'm just going to go to the next one. Like this individual. He has lips. And this was like back in the what? 19. Okay, he's got three fingers. I blame Disney for that. It's not scary enough. I don't know what a third finger does. But it's just interesting that back in the 1920s, they were already depicting T Rex with lips. Now you could say, well, they were trying to make it look more of like an iguana. But then they completely disappear. And then Dr. Barker brings up the theory that dinosaurs would have had lips. It would have helped protect them from wear. And that is also how we were able to identify that dinosaurs would have had lips, is that there is not much wear on the teeth of these animals. Um, and also would have kept them, quite moist. Um, but when looking at the picture, obviously he has quite a few problems. I'd say though, I do like how much flesh they gave the arms despite there being three fingers. Yes, T Rex on average had two. Y Rex is quite peculiar. And the tail is quite thin, and it wouldn't have been dragging on the ground. Um, let's see. Any positives? The ear seems to be placed right.
He does have a kind of a turkey look.
Yeah, he does. It's like an iguana turkey sort of mix. I think this is from Charles R. Knight, like back in the 1920s, who was a big paleo artist. And these triceratops are actually not bad. Yes, they do have some false accuracies, but that baby is actually pretty good. Smaller horns, but besides that, okay, let's go to the next one. Let's see. So this looks like some depiction from the 1970s or the 1980s, and I'm guessing this might be Troodon down here. This is, I'm going to assume, an Allosaurus from like the Jurassic. But this T Rex, well, it's definitely better than the last one, but the teeth are far too exposed. The legs, well, look at the thigh. The thigh looks okay, but too thick or stocky of calves, and yeah, his ankle doesn't exist. The tail is far too thin compared to its body size. Now, the overall width of the body, I don't think it's terrible. You're not seeing, or it isn't shown with the rib cage. The arms, though, are far too skinny. And also, when looking at the Allosaurus, the red carnivore in the background, its arms are far too large compared to its body size. Also, the head is far too robust, if that's an Allosaurus, because they're giving it a somewhat Majungus, not Majungasaur, well, in a Bellysaur sort of a look. So,
It was
um,
published in 1988.
oh, huh, okay, Bonkers were way better than this. It's no, not bad. Like I think it looks pretty good. It's just I think it's just that these animals are too fat, and I spoke too soon. Okay, so well, he's not fat. He's just extremely muscular in this instance. So this is a depiction of T Rex, probably from like 2021, when it more evidence or um, approved evidence of dinosaurs having feathers, not feathers, lips came out, and um, that's why you can see the lips are nearly covering the whole tooth. And he's probably swallowing some young and Montosaurus in this instance. But when it comes to this representation, I'm going to say I think he's a bit too round, but for how heavy T
He's
Rex
been
has
eating a
become,
lot of baby Amontosauruses.
yeah, I wouldn't doubt like when the births or the calving season of different animals today occur, T Rex would have gorged himself and put on some weight. So the arms, I don't think they're bad. I mean, they have some musculature on them. It is interesting. They did give him quite veiny of a neck. Okay, so this T Rex, I don't think the feet or the legs in general are too bad. Let's see. The head should be a bit narrower or a bit longer.
It looks a little cartoony.
Yeah, it does. The ridges on the skull, though, they're not terrible, but this is a bit of something that you would see in older species of Tyrannosaur, like Albertosaurus or Gorgosaurus. So, Tyrannosaurs that lived at least 8 to 10 million years before T Rex evolved. Arms are a little lacking in musculature, in my opinion. Seem a bit too skinny. And let's see. So yeah, the overall just core of the body should definitely have more weight.
His feet look small.
Um, yeah, you could say that the toes could be a bit longer compared to its body size, but I think the rest of the leg is okay. He's got a decent thigh, calf. And you can see his ankles. What's these other tyrannosaurs? I'm not sure what was with the illustrators and not giving them ankles. Tail's a bit skinny, especially as you head towards the end, but is he wrapping around the rock? Okay, that's,
I didn't even notice. Is that his tail all the way
yeah,
over
I
there?
thought it was like a sauropod in the distance. That's his tail. So that's definitely a bit off. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh boy, this one. I think I saw him way back. Definitely too stubby, but these illustrations or models were occurring quite a bit. I'm not sure if it was the late early 2000s or some part of the early 2010s, and I'm not sure what was occurring, but these hideous things were popping up in a lot of places. Though it does somewhat appear to have lips, not much of the tooth is exposed. Now, the overall skull structure is a bit off. Um, yeah, it should be a bit narrower or just a bit longer. See, the arms, they do have muscle. I think they're a bit too close to each other, though. Um, let's see. Yeah, legs, it's too stubby. The toes, and should be a bit longer, and definitely too long of a tail. This is just out of proportion. It's like a rectangle that can kill anything. Okay. Oh, okay. So here's one of Charles R. Knight's. Here's one of his really good drawings of like T Rex and Triceratops, and the T Rex, especially at this point, this is really good. So what is this? 1940's, 1930s, and especially the Triceratops, it looks really good as well.
The
Um,
Triceratops is amazing.
yeah, I mean, if you take the tail off the ground, it's not far from today's depictions. Now, you would have had like somewhat smaller horns around his frill, but besides that, it's really good. This T Rex, obviously, this one in the background, he's standing upright.
Why does he have a yellow head?
Yeah, I always wondered that too. Maybe it's just supposed to depict the sun shining on him.
He also kind of looks like a puppy waiting for his food.
Yeah, he does. But this T Rex problem is his ankles are a bit too thick, the toes are a bit too short. The arms, it's almost like he has fat on his arms, but they're not exactly muscular. Um,
Are they splayed properly? Because it kind of looks like they are.
it looks like they're pointing towards the rear
Mm.
of the animal. The tail is a bit too thin. Um, the pelvis, though, it actually doesn't look bad in this region. And then the neck should also be much more muscular. It should be almost aligning with the top of the head, and that's how thick T Rex's neck muscles were. In this instance, he has some sort of problem. Teeth are a little too exposed. The nostril seems about right. The ears placed right. Maybe somewhat peripheral vision. But besides that, actually, he has quite a few problems. I've got to be honest from an accuracy perspective, but it's still great. Charles R. Knight had great drawings, and it's not just of T Rex and Triceratops. He drew saber-toothed cats of Smilodon, as well as woolly mammoths, ground sloths, sauropods. I don't think this is him. This is somebody else. This might be from the 1950s or 60s. This T Rex has a lot of issues. So he has a very thick skull and kind of short too. Um, yeah, when it comes to everything with that skull, then there are a lot of problems. And let's see, the arms should also be facing each other. They seem to be facing the ground. And also, it's like there is muscle on the deltoids, and then it becomes somewhat too thin. So this is possibly a young Montosaurus, which at the time was probably recognized as a Nanotitan, and well, now that's an invalid genus. Too thick of legs. What is this? Um, like
Those feet are
huge.
huge.
Yeah, there's like he has some big bird feet, and then also a bit too just out of proportion of a tail, and just also the overall posture looks like a camel or a bit of just a humped T Rex. No, they did not store fat on their
I
backs.
I'm not sure. Is this watercoloring or did someone do this with
Oh yeah, that just hit
pastels?
me. I have no idea. That could be watercoloring. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, that's him from earlier. Anything I missed? Jeesh, I thought that was just me. That's hideous. Okay, I think his toes are a bit too fat.
So I put 2 of these in.
Um, yeah, slobber. It's accurate. Okay. Um. Oh, so this is supposed to be a young T Rex. This actually isn't bad, considering T Rex was quite slightly built when, like, in its first 5 to 6 years. They were built much like their earlier ancestors. So, um, Mongolian species such as Electrosaurus, so this was somewhere between 85 to 90 million years ago, Mongolia, or even later individuals like Albertosaurus over in Canada around 76 million years ago. But this individual carrying part of the vertebrae of maybe it was some hadrosaur, it could have been some unfortunate sauropod dinosaur, maybe even like Alamosaurus. But anyway, focusing beyond the skull, this is a very good representation of a young T Rex. And even the arms, okay, I would say, where's the shoulder? I don't see it. And yeah, the forearms, like if you shave this animal, it's just skin and bone. Okay, well, it's not bad. Yeah, looking at these depictions, so this is just mm, approved. Never mind. We already went over this. Okay, so I think this is also another drawing of Dr. Bacher. So this is probably from the book Raptor Red. Now, also for the time, this depiction of T Rex was pretty good. Besides the quite elongated teeth, but I do like how glistening they are in this instance.
It's kind of skinny.
Yeah, it is also from the angle, except its legs. It definitely didn't skip leg day. It's like, look at that. It's like I've been pressing ankylosaurs, and then this young individual, very lightly built, and that's good to see. I think the skull might have been slightly longer compared to its body size. The arms, they might be okay considering just how thin the youngsters were. Might be okay. It's covered in feathers, except for like the lower part of the shin bone as well as the ankle bones. Very similar to today's birds. Um, yeah, interesting nest sites. Anyway, let's keep going. Well, for a lipped individual, this isn't bad. He has immense musculature around his neck, as well as I don't know. It just kind of aligns with the rest of the body in this instance. A
How is he
very
breathing?
Oh, okay. His nostrils. He has a big problem in this instance. I gave him like Okapi nostrils. What on earth? They should be much longer. Um, and also the ridges on top of its skull. They're not bad. Forward-facing eyes, but he has a sinus issue. So let's keep going. Okay, this is definitely a much older depiction. This could be 1950s, 1960s. The arms definitely look like he has thick arms, but they aren't very musculature or muscular. Let's see. The claws, it is interesting. So technically the index finger would be slightly shorter, or at least when it comes to the claw than the thumb. So the teeth are definitely far too exposed. His nostrils should be much longer, much more narrow. The ear is decently placed though. Um, Far too skinny of a neck. And here is probably a running ornithomimus, which is odd. It's okay that he's there, but he's oddly structured. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, this might be 1950s or 60s. This T Rex looks like a bit of an ogre and has a very short skull compared to its body size, like one of the shortest that we've seen. Huge thighs. I'm not sure what this is about. They also don't look very defined. So, oh gosh, I got to be honest. You know what I didn't mind about the other fat ones is that they somewhat aligned. This is like I feel like I've seen this in real life. Like it's you know hideous. The tail is it's okay over here, and then it just stops. Um, yeah, he's a bit. I'm not sure what to say. It's like someone took a Megalosaurus, which was the first clarified dinosaur to be discovered over in England as well as the world, but and they just gave him T Rex characteristics. Now, what is interesting is they're depicting this animal shredding an unfortunate and Montosaurus with its feet. Probably only would have occurred if the animal was truly on the ground, not so much standing. And some troodon in the background, some sauropods. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, this is when looking at the skull, it's a decent T Rex. However,
Did he just watch Predator?
you mean like when he ripped out the vertebrae? Maybe. Um, but the neck structure also looks pretty good. Problem is, once you start leaving that area, the core should have a bit more weight. And then once you get to the legs, the thigh seems okay, but these calves and this ankle, um, yeah, we're going to need to add some muscle. The toes, I can't tell. You might have too stubby of feet by the looks of it. The tail should also have a bit more weight on it. If this was a younger individual, so maybe 11 years old, it'd probably be okay. But a full grown 25-year-old adult, not so much.
Do you know what the oldest one we found is?
Similar to me, I think it's Stan. So he was found after the Sioux specimen, somewhere between 28 to 33 years. So they didn't live too long. And it actually took them a long time to grow, like at least 20 years with the larger species. Sauropods, the long necked dinosaurs, might have taken over 30. And in many instances, there's evidence of them to continuously grow throughout their life. So this is some 1920s depiction. Um, not a whole lot that I can say. The whole thing is off.
I just want to say somebody needs a pedicure.
Yeah. His tongue's down. That's a positive. His ear, that might be his ear. I'm guessing. Everything else though is this. You know what this also looks like? A very distant relative of Dilophosaurus, Monolophosaurus, just by the structure. But even then, it's pretty bad. Okay. Well, this might be some 1980s depiction. Um, I'm not sure what he's eating, but looking at this T Rex, it's the arms are too long compared to its body size. It's just the overall leg structure. I guess the thighs are okay, but the tail and definitely that face. I'm not sure what this is.
Is he smiling while he's eating?
Yeah, yeah, he's very proud. And considering there aren't any wounds on this animal's neck, I got a bad feeling that's how he died, or how he's supposed to
It
be
looks like
taken.
he's eating a gummy.
Oh, yeah, it does. Hmm. Okay, so that's interesting. Whenever this was written, they were saying the T Rex weighed 8 tons. That's quite interesting. Stood 6 meters high, so that's around 20 feet. It's a bit tall for a T Rex. 14 feet.
And
Uh,
weighing what?
Oh, at least 9.5 tons, definitely reaching over 12 tons. That's a very large individual. Okay. Somewhere in the swamps, which is interesting because this would have been Montana where T Rex existed 67 million years ago. Now, looking at the T Rex itself, too long of arms. Um, the neck structure is closer, but I have to say this just looks like wrinkles of fat, not so much muscle.
He's been eating all the people that show up.
Yeah. His tongue might be down, but can tell from this instance. You can't tell if he has a calf or not.
I just threw this at you because I thought it was so funny looking.
Yeah, he's not approved. And these tyrannosaurs, very skinny arms. What on earth? And extremely, yes, T Rex has a bit of a longer skull, but there comes to a point where this is just too skinny.
It looks like that one's walking like a person.
Yeah, it does. Also, this Parasaurolophus in the background, a duckbill dinosaur that did not coexist with T Rex. Unless these are supposed to be Albertosaurs, which they still don't look too great. Um, Gorgosaurus, any Tyrannosaur wouldn't have looked like this. I've also seen certain toys that have this structure. The next, you could say, okay. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, the arms, they should be facing each other. They have barely any muscle.
He has lips.
Mm, no, I still think the teeth are too exposed. But yeah, he does have somewhat lips. The nostrils should be much longer and a bit towards the front a bit more. I think they're too far back. There's his ear. What is with these depictions? You get the ear right and nothing else. Um, okay, but this was also much older. This could be 1970s, 1960s. Okay, finally. This is extremely skinny, too long of a tail.
I'm sorry, but he looks like he's a blanket or something.
Yeah, he does. Probably the tail structure. His ears right, bit too of large eyes compared to its skull. Nostrils off, too short of a skull, too skinny of a neck. Why do they give it this, or why were they giving T Rex this type of a skinny sort of look? Also, the arms are far too long. And then when it comes to actually, the feet don't look too bad compared to its body size. That's interesting. Maybe this distinct claw might be okay. Might be a bit thicker though. Anything else? Geesh, like a very short sort of a ending to the knee. Besides that, this animal shouldn't be living. Okay, well, that's it. And from now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.